with domestics, that also just because I have a kind of not a similar thing, but an experience that where I did an indie feature, and then while we were doing that, wound up having to deal with Gold Circle Pictures, which is top of the food chain kind of thing, and it was a complete like culture shock of having to
Yeah.
go from making your own things to suddenly dealing with the studio and having people breathing down your necks and just everything you're doing. How was that for you? Because I mean, that had to go from 0 to 60 as well. You're
Yeah.
making your own shorts with a plan of action. All of a sudden, you're getting, Gianni's involved and Josh Stone's UPM and Maxime shooting it and Bill Clark is firsting it. And just all of a sudden, everyone's in there. That had to be a bit of a slightly overwhelming, I would assume.
It's weird because it was and it wasn't. It was
Right.
more like, I mean, just to kind of give you some context, like I had been shooting and been on set. Like set life was not a new thing for me when
Right.
I did domestics. I mean, sure, it was the first like, well, I mean, it was the first Hollywood film. I mean, it was under the umbrella of MGM. Like I pitched the movie to them, they said yes, they gave me the money to do it. Like, so I think that was the newest aspect of it. In terms of like helming a crew, I guess sure this was a pit, this was a bigger crew than normal, but at the same time, it's kind of like I knew my place and how to I knew how to lead and I knew how like yeah to I just I felt at home, like, so nothing was out of place other than yes, sure, it was nice to have like somebody like Bill and Josh and Shannon um overseeing and kind of helping me along the way. Like they were very kind to sort of help me through things that maybe I didn't understand, but at the same time being on set was something that wasn't new. Like I'd been in situations, maybe sets that were half or third the size, but if you say that there was like what 100 or so people
Yeah.
uh, on our crew or whatever, I'd worked with sets of 40 and 50. So it was just, stepping up, and but the focus was just how can I just continue to make the movie that I wanted to make. And there were days where that was a lot more challenging, especially when you were getting pressure from the studio to make at times a different type of movie. And yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, there's a little bit of that creeped through, that I still see it on screen at times. And as a filmmaker, you look back and you remember the good times, and you also remember the bad times. And so I remember, when that movie does come up, or if I pull it up, I haven't watched it in several years now, but when I do see clips from it or somebody talks about it or whatever, I'm also reminded of sort of some of the battles that we had to fight to try to make the movie that we were trying to, or that I was trying to make. And I think for the most part, that movie's there, and there's a sprinkling of things that maybe I would have done differently, just because of the pressure at times, and feeling like you needed to make certain people happy. But that was part of the learning experience, and I feel like now going forward in the movies that I've been able to make now, I know how to navigate a lot of those situations. And honestly, and I have to give credit to the fact that because I was thrown into the deep end, and I learned it was a very kind of hectic, very at times explosive, a lot of personalities saying what they wanted, and lots of really insane phone calls, people yelling, screaming, like you're just kind of like, whoa, I can't believe I'm like in the middle of all this. Um, and so learning all of that and then understanding how to handle that in
Mhm.
future projects, it was like it was an incredible learning experience, if anything, to go through making that movie.
Yeah, and I can imagine because I remember some of the days where it was, are we coming to work tomorrow or not? Because there'd be some kind of hiccup with something, and it was really one of those things where that's all I could think about was like, man, it's got to be tense. It's got to be something where you're just like sitting there, because I mean you're trying to focus on making a movie and being the creative side and having that going on, but at the same time it's your property and people are just on top of you trying to, well, no, you have to do it this way, and that's got to be a little, I don't want to say frustrating, but it's got to be hard to work whenever you're whenever it's your property, like something that you fully created, and then people are trying to tell you how to make it, I guess is the best way.
I mean, yeah, that was tough. I mean, there was a couple tough things because first of all, being a first feature and then knowing that, especially like we started shooting and I think the first things that we were shooting were pieces of, it was like me redoing
Mm.
the short. Like the stuff that I made in the short was one of the first things that we ended up going out to shoot. And that was such a struggle because I knew how I made the short feel and I loved how the feel and the griminess and um, of that short came across, but I was getting a lot of pressure to not make the film feel as grimy as that. And so I had to find a balance, and it was a struggle because not only that, but like things that we found that were magic on the short weren't necessarily translating the same way for the feature. And so that first week, or yeah, that first week was really tough because nothing was turning out the way that I was hoping it would.
Yeah.
But as soon as I let that go and was like, you know what, this isn't the short, this isn't the domestics that I was making, that I made 2 years ago, that I made 2 years prior to 2 or 3 years prior to shooting this. I was like, this is something new. Accept it, embrace it, and just do what you do, man. Like you're good at this. Like you can do this. And that's what I did. And as soon as I did that, it was really interesting to see how the first week, which was a bunch of people sort of like looking over at a first time director saying, does this guy know what he's doing? Suddenly turned into second week, everybody saying, whatever you need, whatever you need. Because I'd let it go. I let it go. And I just became somebody who was like, you connected with your crew, you listened, and you just actively were trying to make the best movie you could, and everybody saw that, and everybody saw some like the difficulties that were surrounding it, as you did, and everybody just stepped up, man, and it was really cool to see that. Like I felt like I really had a team behind me that really supported me, and of course I felt the same. Like, if dude, these people are supporting me, like I'm gonna lead. I want to lead, man, with freaking compassion and love, and we're gonna have fun doing this. And then the rest of the shoot was so much fun. I mean, I'll never forget one of the first conversations with Bill Clark, actually, when we were going through some hard stuff the first week of the movie, because everything at one point stopped. And I'm sure you remember when we were on set and everything stopped, and there's this, and for just to give you a little insight, at that point there was um, uh, stuff from the studio saying that they wanted stuff in the script changed, and the actors didn't want to do it, and I also did not want to do it because it changed the script, and the actor was like, yeah, we signed up for one script and now you're asking us to do something else. And so I was between a rock and a hard place. It was really challenging because I didn't know what to do. First time director. Even I remember talking with Shannon Golding at the time, and she was like, gosh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I haven't been in this situation before where now I don't know what to do and everything is stopped. Um, and then Bill came over and he was like, what's going on? And I filled him in, and he goes, okay, so you have a couple options here. You can either go and continue making the movie that you want to make and possibly get fired, meaning you won't come back tomorrow, or you do what everything that they say, and it's gonna, things are gonna be rocky here anyway then. And I remember saying, like, I want to make the movie that I want to make. And he goes, okay, I got your back. And from that point forward, not to say that he hadn't prior to that in pre-production, but from that point forward, he was such a freaking fighter to get that movie made and to get what I needed. Like I remember him, like we would miss stuff during the day, obviously, like any movie. You just like, shit, we don't have enough time for this. We don't have enough time for that. He goes, don't worry, I'm taking notes. And he had this, I swear to God, it was like a Bible full of things that, like, these little clips and little scenes and little inserts and stuff that we needed that we didn't have time to get. And throughout the entirety of the shoot, he would pull those up during random parts of the day in which we were in between things. So, Mike, we can go pick up that insert of picking up that gun if you want to go do that right now. I'm like, yes, we would go and get it. By the end of the shoot, we weren't missing anything. Even though we had continually, had to, days, you get to the end of the day, you got to stop. We didn't end up missing anything. And so much of that was through his support, through Shannon's support. Josh, like, fighting for us, even though Josh was like a stickler for the schedule, God bless him. Like, I mean, they were all very much like on board to make this the best we could under the constraints. I mean, 25 days, not a lot of time. So yeah, again, what a freaking roller coaster. The drama, as hard as it was at the time, I look back now and I sort of relish in it. It's like this weird, like, masochistic sort of like pride in a way, because you're just like, God, I went through that. That really sucked. But then you look at it and you're like, God, but so much. How much have I learned? Did I learn through that experience? Because like now when shit comes up like that on set, you're just kind of like, okay. And I strangely get very calm in those situations, and I've had these moments where I'm like, well, let's talk about this. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. Like, we just sit down, we take 15, 20 minutes, and we hash things out. I don't know. Like, I don't know any other way to do it. Like, because that's what I learned through the crazy that was the domestics at times, dealing with very explosive personalities from the studio, to being able to just work with it and find a way that we can deflate all that tension, and work together. And yeah, that's, again, it was a blessing, to be honest with you. At the time, it did not feel that way. At the time, it was very hard. At the time, I asked myself, do I really want to do this? And then I remember my wife saying, well, what else do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I was like, I kind of just want to keep doing this, even though. She goes, well, then just keep going. Like, I got you. And I've been doing it ever since.